You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru attı. Kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol. Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 246 of the Black Eagles podcast. That's a lot of episodes. And I am, of course, your host, Sinan. Keep your buzz coming. That's right. Welcome back, everyone. Of course, we have a match to talk about. Beşiktaş was on the road, sort of, against Istanbulspor in the Atatürk Olympiat Stadium, which is, of course, what we're here to talk about, as I tend to do. I'm also going to talk a little bit about news, and in this case, it's mostly injury stuff. Now, I do really quickly want to talk about the new guys we brought in right before our last episode. I talked about Tayyip Talha Sanuc already, because he was the guy who had just come in, and it was a rather important transfer, right? We were all waiting for that Turkish central defender. He made his debut against Istanbulspor. It's worth mentioning. I'm obviously going to go over the lineups and stuff soon, but yeah, he had a pretty solid debut, I think most would agree. But what I did in the process of kind of overemphasizing that transfer was I very casually grazed over Nathan Redmond and Tayfur Bingol signing. So I'll do a little bit of that before we talk about Istanbulspor. But so anyway, for episode 246, let's begin.
Operation is in effect as of right now.
That's right. Get it going. So yeah, I mean, first of all, I guess before I even talk about the new transfers, briefly, I should mention that I think the biggest news for us right now is injury related, and the question is, when is Rachid Ghezal coming back? When is Dele Ali coming back? You know, do we have these guys for some of our important matches upcoming? You know, our next match, for anyone unfamiliar, is in fact a derby against Fener, right? Don't panic, anyone, but it's true. That's what's happening next. We're going to be at home. We're hosting the match, 1 p.m., Sunday, October 2nd. Times can change, so stay tuned for that. But, yeah, what that means is we need to know that Rachid Ghezal and or Dele Ali will be back. That's where much of our offense comes from, right? Last year, we entirely over-relied on Rachid Ghezal for our offense, for creating everything. And the poor guy didn't even get what he deserved as far as assist numbers and all that. But, so yeah, sure enough, we do have some more options this year, although still, right, he's a vital cog, and against Fener you should be at full strength. Same goes for Dele Ali, where he's one of the main alternatives we got, you know, to sort of minimize the pressure on Ghezal to create so much. So for him to go down also is a blow, no doubt, especially for our offense, for our creation, for our build-up. But it is what it is, right? The good news is both will be back for the Fener game. This international break couldn't have been better timed, perhaps, but sure enough, they will return for that match. That's key. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'd hope that they, one at least, would return for this Istanbulspor match. Neither did. It is what it is. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the transfers made. First, it was Tayfur Bingol, 29-year-old Turk. He's turning 30 in January. So, not exactly the most long-term, cost-effective move, perhaps. But he's a very dynamic player, very versatile, right? He can play in a ton of positions. We brought him in as a defensive midfielder last week, and he came in and was very solid. Played as a right back this week off the bench. So, he is active, a hard worker. He's got an interesting story. So he starts his career in Ankara with Gençler, moves over to Hacettepe, back to Gençler, back to Hacettepe in that weird phase where Ankara clubs were just rife with nonsense. So he spends a year in Hacettepe, his first senior year, plays 31 matches, 5 goals, moves back to Gençler for 4 more years, and only makes 1 appearance somehow. But he does get loaned back to Hacettepe, where he played 14 matches in 2013, 32 matches for Bandırmaspor in 2013-14, 27 matches for Adana Demirspor in 2014-2015. This is back when they're in the lower leagues. And then finally, in 2015-2016, he'd go to Alanyaspor and play 33 matches, scoring 12 goals. And I think that's where he would, enter the radar of many folks. Now, granted, this is already like 6 years ago. So the problem is that by then, he's already 23, so he's not like a youth prospect. He's gone through the lower leagues of Turkey. So he doesn't get the big move he probably deserved at that point. After a very solid year for Alanya, he does move to Göztepe, where he does play solidly for 3 years, 79 appearances, 11 goals, before finally settling back with Alanyaspor, where we all knew of his exploits right before he joined us. He was actually loaned out to Bursa. I didn't know this in 2020. So a dalliance with the enemy, so to speak. No, I'm kidding. I don't care about Bursa that much. They want that rivalry, but I don't think we should even grant it, to be frank. I don't they're not big enough, right? What are they, a 1 league side now? Come on. Worth noting that Tayfur Bingol has made 5 appearances for under 21 Turkish sides, 3 for the under 20 side, 2 for the under 21 side. So he's legitimately been on the radar as far as a younger talent, and then it kind of faded out, and a late bloomer now. Which brings me to the other transfer we made, which is, and I honestly thought that Tayfur Bingol, because he can play kind of on the wing back, in the midfield, that might have been the last move, but in fact we brought Nathan Redmond in, which honestly was a shocker to me. I mean, there was a lot of build-up to it. There was talk of it happening, but I just didn't really think it would. What's interesting is he's only 28, and he's 28 until March. So he's like legit 28. He's not like 28 turning 29 in a minute. And his history is also interesting. So he came up in Birmingham City's youth academy, broke through there in 2010, where he would make 62 appearances over 3 seasons for Birmingham City before making the move up to Norwich City. In 2013, he had 7 goals and 62 appearances for Birmingham. He would have 11 goals and 112 appearances for Norwich City. So again, over a 3-year span, a big upgrade in terms of output and playing time and all that. And then another, in this case, it was a 6-year span. He would go from Norwich City to Southampton in 2016, and he would play there until 2022, until we get him. With Southampton, 195 appearances, 21 goals. He has featured for every stage of the English national sides, like 7 appearances for the under 16s, 19 appearances for the under 17s, 1 for the under 18s, 8 for the under 19s, 4 for the under 20s, 38 appearances for the under 21s, and 1 appearance for the English national team in 2017. So he hasn't made the 4 required. He could be a Turk if he sticks around. Granted, he'll be like 34 or something by the time he's like eligible, but he looks really solid. I'm not gonna lie. But so yeah, what we have here is a kind of classic English club player. He's been all throughout, the league there, the leagues, even, right? Supposedly he had highlights in like the League Cups and stuff like that in his youth career. So, he's been on the radar. of the English national team for a while. Although it's been a minute since. And it looks like his time in England came to an end. Like that was about the height of his career there, being a very productive player for Southampton. And so he's moved on to greener pastures, to Istanbul to join us. So yeah, great addition. Already he's come in and brought, like, the ball gets glued to his foot when it arrives to him. He has yet to start. But that makes sense. Nkudu's coming off of a solid season here, so it's hard to really get him out of the lineup to put in Redmond. And same goes on the opposite flank, right? Although Ghazal was out, I mean, Jackson Muleka is basically our leading goal scorer. Or, tied for it anyway. Tied with Nkudu, 4 goals apiece. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's a good problem to have too many good players to choose from, but nonetheless, I think we can pretty much assume that we'll see Redmond in the lineup eventually, or, intermittently, in rotation. That would be ideal. But so, that's it. Let's talk about this match. Let's talk about, Istanbulspor. Let's talk about, a match. Let's just call it that. Certainly, it was a match. Now, head-to-head, not much history between Istanbulspor and Beşiktaş. I have to be honest. I don't really, my app doesn't have any recorded history between them. I'm sure we have faced off against them, historically speaking, but it's sort of irrelevant as far as like having any bearing on today because it has been so long. With that said, Istanbulspor is hardly like turning heads, to be honest. Although they started out the season, I thought, quite well. An undeserved loss to Trabzon. Although they lost by 2 goals, it was like late in the match that second goal was scored. They had a goal taken off unfairly, so it should have been equalized at one point. I mean, they definitely fought hard for it. A little coffee there. Next stop would be in Kayseri, where they would lose 1-0, then to Konya, where they would lose 0-4. And that was the first moment where it's like, maybe these guys are really bad, because, Konya, granted, has had a fantastic season, but not a 4-goal scoring spree type of season. They're a 1-0 victory type of team, or 0-1. So to allow 4 goals from Konya was shocking. And Konya had started roughly, so this was, for Konya, this was a major turning point. But actually, for Istanbulspor, it was as well, because they had sort of been scrapping out losses, maybe where they deserved a point or more, until that point. And so that was a wake-up call. They came back, went to Alanyaspor, and won 0-1. So that was a very nice victory for them. And then they followed that up going to Sivas. So 2 tough road matches, Alanya and Sivas. And again, they pull a draw against Sivas 1-1. At this point, Sivas has sort of turned their season around. They've gotten a decent result in Europe. And so that's a good result for Istanbulspor as well. So unfortunately for Beşiktaş, they have just turned the tide. It looks like that Konya score was like an existential reawakening for them. And so they have a win and a draw since. And at home, they were given the Atatürk Olympiat Stadium because the assumption, I suppose, was that Beşiktaş would have too many fans to contain in their little Pee-wee stadium. Whatever, it is what it is. I don't know if I like that decision much because they hardly got a tenth of that stadium filled, which almost defeated the purpose of it, really. But anyway. So yeah, pretty decent form for the likes of Istanbulspor, to be honest. Let's talk about lineups for this match. Now, obviously for us, Ersin Destanoğlu back in goal, interestingly. And, no coincidences. Contract talks were supposedly very close to being done coming into the match. So I'm not saying it was definitely just like contract stuff that had him get benched, but, signs point to it, no doubt. I mean, you could also say, you look at we've allowed on average 2 2 shots on goal per match this season, or we had going into the last one. I don't think that's changed because I think they actually had 2 shots on target as well. Spoiler alert. But nonetheless, we've allowed quite a few goals. And so what's basically happening is that almost every shot on target is a goal. So although there's a ton of flukes in there and wacky situations that led to those goals, and just, I'm trying not to use the word it's house. I think I might as well just say it's house. There's a ton of house goals. Just like out of nowhere from 40 yards out, like bangers, wonder goals. Almost every single one has had that kind of complexity or feature to it. So it's annoying. But I guess if you're looking for like a problem, it would start with the keepers. I don't, it's gonna equal out, right? It's gonna correct itself eventually. You can't just expect to have bangers scored against you every week. We've played so well, so compact, in preventing these opportunities. It's so bizarre that their efficiency, or every opponent of our efficiency, is so high. And I don't know if that's our keepers falling asleep, being lulled into complacency, or whatever it is. But anyway, that could have merited a change to Emre Bilgin, perhaps. But I suspect that it's contract stuff. Anyway, so Ersin in goal. On the back line, Romain Saiz and Tayyip Talha Sanusi. On the wings of our defense, Valentin Rosier and Arthur Masuaku. No surprises there, of course. In the midfield, Joseph de Souza back with Jedson Fernandes and Salih Uchan kind of up ahead of him slightly. And then, of course, Georges Cavin Nkudu and Jackson Muleka on our wings with Wout Weghorst in the middle. On the sideline, by the way, Adam Murray, our assistant coach, because Valérien Ismail, of course, was red carded in the previous match for a little cheeky clap, which is, by the way, just hilarious, right? Like, Emre Belözoğlu, I don't know if he has like a beep machine there next to him, just to someone to bleep out all of his curses, because he's just sitting there yelling and cursing non-stop. And doesn't get the kind of attention in that match, right? It was against them, that's why I mentioned Emre. But somehow clapping is the automatic red card or whatever. Turkish refereeing is just a farce. The whole system around it, the way people react to things, it's just a crazy, stupid mess of a system. But let's talk about this match. So now our opposition, I guess real briefly, their goalkeeper was David Jensen, 30-year-old Danish keeper. Their backline, a 3-man backline, has Okan Erdoğan, 23-year-old German Turk, next to Mehmet Yeşil, 24-year-old Turk, next to Tuncer Duhan Aksu, 25-year-old Turk. In their midfield, it's Melih Kabasakal, 26-year-old Turk, next to, sorry for those sirens there, Muammer Sarikaya, 24-year-old Turk. On their wings, or sort of wing backs, Ali Yashar, 27-year-old Belgian, opposite Ozan Berber, 30-year-old Turk. Again, apologies for the sound recording during the day here, so it is what it is. Up front for them, Emir Gültekin, 21-year-old Turk, and Yetmir Topali, 24-year-old Kosovan. And technically both are attacking midfielders, so they didn't really have like a classic striker classic winger, behind their striker. I guess their wing backs, Ali Yashar and Ozan Berber, would be sort of filling in the role for them. So it's some interesting modern football from our opponents here. Then, of course, their striker, Ibrahim Yilmaz, 28-year-old Turk. Their coach, Osman Korkmaz. I really have to say, I respect so much this project of theirs, because they've come up to the Super League and they've done something very rare. They have not gotten rid of the whole team that brought them here and replaced it with like the usual cast of, unsavory Turkish journeymen that always sort of fill the ranks of teams that are getting newly promoted. They didn't take that lazy shortcut. They decided to maintain their system, keep their guys, and credit to them. It's it's working out so far to some extent. Like I said, they were playing well until that Konya match, and now they've actually upped it even further, and they're, they're downright a decent team. You'd imagine. I'll talk about standings and everything after this because it's worth noting. But yeah, they're no longer a relegation side with 4 teams in that relegation zone. They're not one of them. So yeah, it's working within reason. It's not like they're a huge success. But anyway, let's talk about this match, huh? So to start things off, the first real highlight is a goal on a free kick to George Kevin Nkudu, kind of right outside of the penalty box. Supposedly it was a indirect free kick, but that was no problem. He slams it right at the keeper low, and it just caroms off him into the goal. And I'm sure that he was aware of this fact, and he slammed it in like that. Apologies for that phone noise there, by the way. Silencing it now. But yeah, I'm sure he was aware of that fact, that it was an indirect free kick, and did that intentionally, slamming it, kicking it low so it was obscured until almost too late and all of it. So actually, it looks like a fluke goal, but it may have been quite clever. And so from there, it's a slogging match, back and forth to some extent, though mostly Beşiktaş kind of launching forward with it, and Istanbulspor kind of trying to hit us on the counter. And then sure enough, in the 25th minute, from quite far beyond the penalty box, again, just an absolute inshallah type of shot, Emir Khan gets the ball and sends in just a ripper of a shot from distance, and it kind of bangs in off the post into Ersin and into the back of the net, so it counts as an own goal for Ersin Destanoglu. And a little bit unfair to the guy who took that fantastic shot on the one hand. And also unfair to Ersin, who I was like, oh, that was 100% his fault. This was another howler by our keeper. Maybe he does need to hit the bench. And then you watch the highlight, and he actually did pretty well to get onto the ball to begin with, turning it onto the post. And then the carom off the post into him is just incredibly bad luck. So I'm not trying to defend our man here, but in this case, a goal that looked 100% to be his fault. He was maybe 25% his fault at the end. A lot of bad luck on it. And he actually did pretty well to get onto it in the first place, so unfortunate. Whatever. 37th minute, however, the next highlight. Actually, Joseph would get a yellow card in the 30th minute, but so in the 37th minute, and officially the 39th, this is when this would get counted. A lovely... I see why. Okay, so, no, in the 37th minute, Jedson would get the ball and cleverly put it into Weghorst's path for a one-on-one. Weghorst finally in a one-on-one situation where he can score, and his shot is saved. It's kind of a poor effort low, but it would be made up for. Literally a minute later, this is my confusion. In the 38th minute, and officially 39th, Masuaku, just some fantastic, fancy feet, dribbling a number of guys in our position, and then finally running up with a neat pass to Jedson, who's running into space in the box. And I think a lot of people expect Jedson to be selfish and try to take a shot from an angle here. Instead, he does incredibly well, incredibly intelligent, to cue it towards the middle of the pitch. A little lofty, loopy ball into the path of Weghorst, who there's nothing he can do except slam it in the back of the net, to be honest. Sure enough, we're back in the lead, 1-2. Not bad. And we looked good for it too. That's the important part. 41st minute, again, lovely dribbling from Masuaku, ending in a poor shot from him, right at the keeper. To be fair, he probably needed support, which wasn't really there. And then finally, right before the half, their guy Topali would send in a lovely ball into the path of their striker Yilmaz, who would turn on it well, but cue it just wide. I think Ersin was there for the save in this case, so it wouldn't have been a goal either way, but still a decent build-up from them in a half that was, for the most part, dominated by Beşiktaş. As things stood here, it was 4 key highlights to Beşiktaş to 2 for them, 2 goals to 1. And that would just about cover it. They'd actually make a sub right before the half. Adi Mehremic coming on for Mehmet Yesil, and Melih Kabasakal getting a yellow card as well right before the half in extra time. At the half, Nathan Redmond would come on for Georges Kevin Nkudu. So, I think keeping Nkudu fresh, make sure he's not injured, adding a certain dynamism to our attack with the ability to hold the ball a little bit more. Nathan Redmond provides that. Cool, whatever. 51st minute, Wellington comes on for Tayyip Sanuc because he's injured. It looks like he got smacked in the eye or something. I hope he's okay. And because we bring Wellington on for Tayyip Talha, we have to bring another Turk on to compensate for the +3 rule. So Tayfur Bingol comes on and Valentin Rosier off. So Tayfur was put into his natural position as a right back. Questionable, I would say. You'd think, for me personally, I would put Emre Can out there, Uzunhan, because this is his former side. Give him the chance to impress. I think these are the games that guys can be the most motivated for. And then you don't have to worry about the Tayfur or Valentin Rosier thing. Valentin Rosier was pissed off. I'm sure in the end someone explained, hey, it's because we needed a Turk out there and whatever. But he was pissed not to be able to play out the match. 52nd minute, right after, Joseph with a fantastic ball into the path of Salih Uçan, who would make a nice turn on it, but then send the ball just wide from using his left foot from sort of just the edge of the box. Lovely effort, though. And again, it looks like we're more likely to make it 3-1 than they are to equalize. But from there, there's a lull. They bring on some subs. Karan Bayis for Ozan Berber. Raymond Ousu for Jetmir Topale. 73rd minute. A free kick. Salih Uçan, I think, finds Joseph with his head. It's either Joseph or Wellington. The big, seemingly Brazilian dude. And it's headed into the path of Redmond, who's just beaten by a defender to it. It looked like it could have been a sure goal, actually. I'm not sure if Redmond couldn't have, moved towards it more aggressively to put it in the back of the net or whatever it was. There's a possibility we could have scored there quite easily. But alas, we do not. 79th minute, Cenk Tosun comes on for Jackson Muleka. Okay, whatever, right? And then, at this point, we're playing with 3 backs, supposedly, It's sort of irrelevant. 82nd minute, Aldin Kajic comes on for Emir Gultekin for them. Sindri Guri comes on for Ibrahim Yilmaz. 83rd minute. Basically, they hit us on the counter. Look to have a little momentum, and Wellington with a professional foul gets a yellow card, kicking dudes foot out from the back. I don't know that he needed to, because we actually had support in front. I think just putting pressure, weighing on the attacker, would have been enough, and it would have given time for the man who was better positioned to defend this guy the chance to come up and defend. But so instead, we give a free kick sort of outside of the box. Sorry for these sirens. Such an unnecessary siren. Screw you guys. It's not even running. It's not like they're trying to get somewhere. They're just being annoying. Anyway. Free kick outside of the box, and sure enough, Ali Yassar sends in a pretty lovely shot over the wall. Ederson doesn't even go for it. I think he was duped. I think it curves to the right, so he takes a step the wrong way, and then doesn't even go for it. Top of the corner, over the wall. It's equalized. You almost expected it at this point, just because of how bad our luck is. It's like the typical type of goal we'd allow at this point in the season. And so there it is, 88th minute. On a corner kick, it would be defended, drop out to Tayfur Bingol, who would send in a fantastic volley into the top left corner, which is just amazingly saved by Jensen, their keeper. And so, at this point, it's like we're doomed. If that's not a goal, nothing's going to be a goal. 88th minute on the preceding corner. It drops to Wellington's head. He skies it over. He really got up in the air. It was like him in the ball basically, and he directed it over. He could easily have just headed it down. So a poor head from Wellington. 3rd minute of extra time, Nathan Redmond gets a yellow card. But that would be it for this match. 2-2, a draw against newly promoted Istanbulspor. And yeah, nobody's thrilled with that result, right? There's almost no excuse for it. It was a fluke. Goals, two opportunities, 2 goals for them. And not even real opportunities, but it still feels bad because there's no way for us to have lost a match like this. Even though we were terrible, we were still better than them. To underscore it, although the XG was 0.95 in our favor to their 0.66, so barely. And although we both had 8 shots and 50% of the ball, we had 5 on target to their 2. They had 2 shots on target and 2 goals. It's just the same every week at this point. They had 0 big chances, right? Their goals were flukes. We had 2. We missed 1. I can't even imagine which one they've deemed. Maybe it's the one where Veghorst's shot was saved on the 1-on-1. We complete 317 passes at an 80% rate to their 287 at a 73% rate. We commit 18 fouls to their 14, which is garbage. Terrible reffing, as usual. We're called offsides 4 times to their 1. We get 5 corners to their 3. So, we're in the more dangerous positions. We're more threatening, no doubt, this whole match. Even despite the sort of unflattering statistics. But still just can't get it done. Can't get it done. This is a disappointing draw, no doubt. Lost 2 points, not gained a point here. Let's talk about some statisticos, right? Some individual stats. The highest rated player, Ali Yassar, who, of course, had a goal, created a chance as well. Wout Weghorst was the next highest rated. He also had a goal. Muammer Sarikaya next, Jedson Fernandes after that, Arthur Masuaku, Romain Saiz, Salih Uçan, Okan Erdoğan, their central defender. That's it. Only 8 players rated above a 7. So from an individual performance perspective, also a poor match. Although Beşiktaş seemed to have the better individual performers also, with 5 guys in that top 8 to their 3. And the next up, with 6.97, just under our requisite 7.0 rating, was George Kavankudu, who scored. So that's surprising. But I guess he only played a half. And these stats are accumulative, right? So that would explain why. Even though he scored, he didn't have the greatest rating. But so, 6 out of the top 9 players, Beşiktaş. So our players had better performances individually. We had slightly better stats. But, the main thing is just, once again, they didn't really create a chance. I think the closest they got to creating a chance was the turn at the end of the half by their striker, Ibrahim Yilmaz, which he shot wide. And I think Ersin was there to save it anyway. So yeah, the stats tell the same story. This was an unflattering draw. We should have won. And so, I don't think there's anything left to say. A really disappointing result, no doubt. We should have absolutely done better, and I think we could have, right? We not only should have, theoretically, but even just based on what we saw on the pitch. So nobody can be too happy with what ended up being an unnecessary giveaway of points, a draw. Let's talk standings, right? First place, Adana Demir, who beat Antalya 0-3 on the road, is now in first place, tied on points with Galatasaray, who beat Konya 2-1. A little iffy, but whatever. Making them tie with Adana Demirspor at 16 points, but in second based on goal differential. Third place is our bunch, Istanbul Başakşehir here. Us and Konya each have 14 points. Of course, Başakşehir is in third, the +9 goal differential. We are in fourth with a +6 goal differential. And Konya is in fifth with a +6 goal differential. But we have more goals scored, I guess, is why we're ahead of them. We've allowed 10 goals to be scored already this season, which is not like leading the league or anything, but compared to the other guys near the top of the table, with the exception of Adana Demirspor, it's pretty pathetic. And again, considering we've only allowed two shots on target per match, that's especially fishy, but whatever. Still, 4th place right now, 2 points out of 1st place. Not bad at all. 4 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. It's all quite good in the big picture, although obviously you'd like to have seen some results go differently, especially the Alanya one, for example, certainly the Beşiktaş one, and most certainly this Istanbulspor one. Like I've already mentioned, next up is Fener. We're hosting them. The game is scheduled now to be at 1 p.m. here in New York City. Check your local listing on Sunday, October 2nd. So we have a week off, and then we're right back at it. So yeah, stay tuned for that, of course. That should be thrilling. Maybe I'll get a special guest on for the derby analysis there. But yeah, good luck to the national team, right? Hopefully they do well during this break. And good luck to us in training. I'm quite happy to announce Rashid Ghazal and Dele Ali coming back. And until then, you know where we'll be, just chilling out, watching football and the like. Maybe some basketball. Nick coming back soon. I'm actually going to the Garden to see the first preseason match of the year, so I'm excited. Anyway, that's all there is for this week. Nothing to report except for just the sloppy draw against Istanbulspor. And, 4th place in the standings, 2 points out of 1st. Not bad. Not bad at all. So, follow us on Twitter, at Eagles_podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Black Eagles Podcast, one word. Follow myself at Sir_Rights_ a lot. Yeah, of course. Let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everyone.
Çok harikasın, çok güzelsin, harika, harika, harika. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Yoldan geldi.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.